I would say the same thing with Ethereum. Right now, Ethereum has rallied up towards this. If it continues to move up into it, I would expect a sell-off. Forgive when people admit their mistakes, I've found. And I think that's exactly what he's doing. And I think he's reminding people that, we can't be in it for the short-term mega move. We have to be thinking long-term where it's the exponentially big mega move that we're after. So you got to weather the storm sometimes to win the battle, right? The war. Yeah, so I'm a little skeptical on these type of merges and these type of things in the near term, mainly because investor sentiment is the #1 thing that rules price, right? So yes, this is probably keeping people from shorting it right now. They don't want to step in front of a freight train if it takes off. We've seen an amazingly big bounce in Ethereum, but the one thing I'm seeing here, and I'll flip over to my chart and show, is that basically we have this kind of bullish consolidation. So you do see a bull flag forming. This is a very clear bull flag. Now, I don't want to see this candle break down too much. Right now, it's right at the lower end of that flag. But basically, the upside is somewhat limited here. I mean, there's the first resistance level, which is right here around 1700. So we're, not too far away from that. And then even if it gets through 1700, around 1900 is the next big resistance level. So I'm in the camp where I look at this and I say, okay, yes, there's some upside left, and I believe that Bitcoin, Ethereum, they will see upside, but you could actually maybe see the run occurring into the merge and then a sell the news event. And I think that is the likely scenario here. Or maybe we get to 1900, and then once you see that merge occur, then the selling takes back over. Yeah, I think that's the key is if you saw selling going into it, then I would believe that you have a much more bullish case. It's almost like earnings, right? So like a company that runs up 50% into earnings, they might beat the earnings estimates, they might raise guidance. And I've seen many instances where the stock still sells off because it had such a big run into those earnings. So I would say the same thing with Ethereum. Right now, Ethereum has rallied up towards this. If it continues to move up into it, I would expect a sell-off on that event. However, if you see the opposite occur where it starts selling off back to $1,000 or so, then I think the opposite could easily happen. Yeah, I think if the Fed said, listen, we are not going to stop until we get back to 2%, even if the economy weakens, and they raise 75. I mean, I think, again, the 75 or 100 basis points is somewhat non-factor at this point, but it really is that statement, because that statement, if they're like still gung-ho, like, basically hell or high water, we're going to make sure that inflation goes to 2% or under, then they're going to be raising a lot more, and that's going to spook the markets quite a bit. So I think that's the bottom line, is that's why Wednesday is so important. Also because Wednesday, again, you assume that they know the GDP number already, which will then guide us to what that GDP number should be. Yeah, I think it does. I think this is a huge aspect that most investors in crypto don't understand. It's the need for some sort of regulation, positive regulation, safety measures being put in. Again, if you want the big money to come in, and we're talking pension funds with trillions and trillions of dollars, and just putting 1% in crypto, that's a game changer. And if you want institutions to get involved. And so the fact is, there's a couple reasons. Number one is I really truly believe politicians see the amount of money that they're spending, and they're thinking, okay, well, we're going to spend even more money. So that makes Bitcoin even more viable as it eventually deflates the dollar. And I think also you have to think a lot of these candidates that are running for re-election or election, they have to get votes. Well, right now, a lot of the younger generation is super into crypto. So if they can talk positively about it, it brings more of a vote towards them. So it's honestly, who cares? I'm in the position of, I said gold would be a better performing asset than Bitcoin and the stock market. So far, I've been right, but I honestly have been disappointed with gold's performance recent. I think the fact is that if you think about the Fed maybe potentially getting inflation under control, and again, I think it's not that they're getting it under control, but that I believe we've seen peak inflation, then it does create a scenario where people say, okay, well, if inflation is going to start to come down, do I still need the safety of gold? What if inflation, in this perfect world, inflation goes back to 2%? Well, what's the point of gold then, right? That's what people are thinking. That's why gold has underperformed here. I don't think that fantasy will last very long, in my opinion. So I do think that gold will perform. I do think it'll perform better over the next 6 months into year end than crypto as well as the stock market. Long-term Bitcoin will far outperform gold though. So I think gold over the next year or two, better performer, not over the long term after that. Yeah, I do think so. I do think that Gensler has made it pretty clear that he believes almost everything aside from Bitcoin is a security. The question is, what is the framework going to be for that? What type of regulation will be imposed on these things? And I think that's something that honestly I'm not really super clear of myself yet. And I think they're doing a very poor job of making the market, the crypto market, aware of that. And that's actually probably one of the reasons why you're seeing crypto underperform. There is this risk about, well, what does this mean? How are these going to exist? What's the world look like after we get this regulation out there? And I think, again, the faster we get a framework, it's almost like a buy the news event where they finally tell us and we can all breathe a sigh of relief and saying, okay, well, it's not the end of the world. Let's buy.